Welcome to Athena in Truth's YouTube channel, where we provide tips and insights for you to live your best life. I am your host, Heidi. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today we have Jannecke Oinaes, a special guest. Welcome today, Jannecke.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and a joy being here, and I'm excited to see where this conversation will go.
Awesome. So, why don't you let our listeners know a little bit about your background? I understand you were, or maybe still are, an actress. Can you kind of just give us a little bit of idea of your background and what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. I am Norwegian and I am a former musical theater artist, and I'm actually not an actress anymore. I thought
Oh,
that was
okay.
I thought that was my main purpose in life because I started out very early when I was 7 years old and I got the role as Little Cosette in Les Miserables. And
Mhm.
after that, it was just role after role after role. And at that time, we didn't have Facebook, social media. We just had one TV channel. So I got a lot of attention as a young musical theater artist or star, or child star in Norway. And that was all I wanted. That was my dream. But in my 20s, I got problems with my voice. I got nodules on my voice. And that was devastating to me because I realized that I'm not going to be able to pursue my dream. And that was everything I had actually based my identity on, was that I knew what I was going to become ever since I was 5 years old. And all my life had been geared towards that. And all of a sudden, I see that my dream is crushed. So I fell down into a deep depression because I had no idea who I was and why I was here on earth. And I also thought that God was punishing me, like I was in that belief system that I had to have done something wrong since God took away my voice. And I have never been religious, but I still believed in a force and God. So that was many hard years of severe depression. And I started delving into metaphysics and spirituality. I had nothing to do. I had to just stay quiet. And my boyfriend left me and I developed anxiety, and I really like hit the wall in all ways as a 21-year-old. But in another sense, we could say that I woke up because I started asking questions like, why am I here? What is really my purpose? And is my purpose all these external things, or do I have a deeper value just by being born? Because all of a sudden I didn't have that applause anymore. I didn't have the attention around me anymore. I was sort of like somebody and then I was a nobody. And it just didn't make sense that all of a sudden I wasn't worth anything. So I started questioning all those beliefs in myself. And I realized that I didn't have self-love at all. I didn't know who I was. So I had to build myself from the inside. And that took me a long time because first it's the realization, it's all these questions, and then it's actually the work that I needed to do. And it took me a long time, but then fast forward to I was 30 years old. I had this amazing insight or idea, or my soul or something spoke to me. I was sitting at this cafe with my father, and I all of a sudden I just heard myself saying, I'm not inspired doing what I'm doing right now, because at the time I was studying to become a primary teacher because I didn't know what to do anymore. And I felt that theater wasn't, gratifying anymore because I had so much trouble with my voice all the time, even though I had surgery and it got better, it wasn't good enough. And I said to my father, what I really want to do is to travel around the world and interviewing amazing spiritual teachers about the big questions of life. And when I said that, it was like everything clicked into place. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's it. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And it was such a clarity that I've never had in my life before. Like, there was nothing stopping me. And from there on, I started my YouTube channel, Wisdom from North, and I started interviewing all these amazing teachers. And that was in 2012, where this shift of consciousness, many people are saying that it started. And now I'm still doing it, but it has grown. Like, I have a membership. We produce online courses with teachers. I have 2 podcasts, 2 YouTube channels. We do tons of different things, but this is what I'm doing. So yeah, that's like the short story.
Yeah. So was
I
that
think,
your first? Oh, go ahead, Robin. Sorry.
okay, excuse me, Athena just wants to comment a little bit. Because I think it's important for people that are struggling with depression that they really understand what's going on when that occurs. It's never about losing something or not becoming something. And oftentimes it follows that, but it's really the belief that something's happening to you that's out of your control, that's going to be to your detriment. Let's use that term. Because look at you now. Yeah. So the universe had a plan for you. And as you felt you had no plan, you got the depression. And that's just the high part of you, or the divine part of you, actually communicating to you through you that you're not believing right now that there's something wonderful coming to you. And you have to let go of what it is that you are believing is the thing for you in order for you to receive that into your experience. I'm sure now, as you sit back and look over your life and realize where you are now, that you're probably quite happy with the journey and where it took you. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It would be hard to go through it again. I gotta say, like, it was difficult, but for everybody listening who are going through difficult things, when you're in the midst of it, it's really, really hard. But it did help me to have a belief that, I think there is a greater meaning here. There's got to be a deeper meaning to this. And I can't see it right now, but I feel that someday this all will make sense somehow. And now it does make so much sense. I still believe, though, that we don't need to hit the wall or really crash before we wake up. Like, I think it's possible to wake up without having to lose everything and just really go into the darkest moments. And that's why also I do my work, because I want to inspire people to consciously start to work with themselves, consciously start to work on their self-love and belief systems and empowerment, because then I don't think you need to have your soul like shake you so hard or knock so hard on the door.
Yep, I agree.
We can comment on that too a little bit. Yeah. Just to make a further note is you are just a really hardworking, driven person. Yeah. And if you look at those that take the crash, as you would say, or experience something where they lose everything and then have to rebuild, part of that is tied into the person and their personality, that they have worked very hard to achieve what it is that they have achieved. And therefore, that perception unknowingly is upon them or within them. And so this is the route that often happens. They don't realize that this is a created route. When one loses everything and has to rebuild, it's primarily coming from the energetic field of the person, in the driven form, in the hardworking form, in the perception and the belief that this is what you do to become successful. This is what actually would precipitate one to have that experience. Yeah.
Interesting perspective.
Yeah. So do you feel like your spirituality opened for the first time when you had that experience in your early 20s, or do you feel like you had knowings and recollections of it even as a child?
Oh yeah, I've had as a child. Not that I was hearing or seeing anything, but I always believed that there were angels and beings around me. And I even remember when I was like 13 years old, when you go into middle school and it's all about being cool and sexy and all that and being in the right gang. I just felt so lost in that. So I went into the woods right side my school and was sitting there, yelling for the angels to come. And I felt they didn't come. Like, I never understood why they didn't show up, because I knew they were there. And I just interviewed Yvette Rose the other day, and she said the same. Like, I've had guides with me, but I was so angry at them because I was in all the struggle. And where were they when I was in that struggle? And I could really identify with that, because I never felt I heard anything. I just knew that they were there. I'm like, why are you not showing yourself and, channeling through me, or, what you can do. So I've had it with me as a belief or a knowing all my life. And also like this UFO thing, this really connection to extraterrestrials has also always been like a deep yearning for me to connect with extraterrestrials. And I honestly do not really know what that is about or where it comes from. Like I've received some answers in my interviews that I'm connected to the Pleiades and I've been there many times, but I did draw a lot of UFOs when I was like 3 or 4 years old. And that is interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of just looking back on a few of the things that you had had experiences with, and one of them was lucid dreaming. Would you want to share with our listeners what that is and the experience you had with it?
Yeah, that has been a big help for me in my spiritual journey because after I got out of my depression, I felt that I got a lot of answers about the big questions of life through metaphysics, through reading all these self-help books. And this was before my YouTube channel. And it wasn't that much on YouTube at that time. Like YouTube came, I think, 2006 or something. So it was more self-help books that helped me. But I felt, how can I really know? Like I can believe in this, but I don't have the experience. Again, like I haven't seen an angel. I haven't seen my guides. I just know they're there. So I found this course, this astral travel and dream course, where they said, if you do these techniques, you can go out of your body. And I thought that's brilliant because if I do that, I have proof that I actually exist outside my body. And I went fully into that course and I did all the techniques. And funnily, I had lost my voice again because that has been a story of my life, to lose my voice whenever I get like sick, like a cold or something. I can totally lose my voice. But that was sort of a blessing because then I couldn't work. So what I did was meditate 3 times a day and did all these techniques. And one day I managed to project out of my body. And before that, I also had some lucid dreams. And lucid dreams is to wake up in a dream. It doesn't mean like wake up to this reality. It means that you're waking up to that dream reality. So instead of being unconscious when you're dreaming, when you don't know that you're dreaming, you're actually conscious that you're dreaming. So it's like being in a different reality, totally like 100% being in a different reality and being aware of it at the same time. So it's like you're moving to another dimension and you're there and you're like, okay, let's explore this new dimension. So lucid dreaming and astral projecting, it's almost the same, but a little bit different, because when you astral project, that means that you project out of your body consciously. So you could be awake like we're right now, and then we lie down on the couch, and then you let your body fall asleep. And with techniques you're doing, some do it without having techniques, but most people need it to practice a lot because it's really difficult to make it happen.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your body can't sleep and your mind is awake, your consciousness is awake, and then you have the possibility to split out of your body. And that was the most amazing experience I've ever had, because no one has told me that this is possible before this. I was like so stunned, like, why are we not being taught this in school? Like, here I am, I'm outside my body, I'm conscious, I'm in another reality, and this is real. Like, this is real. And I started navigating in that other reality. And this is, it's a long story. It's a big topic. But to make the story short, I understood that, okay, I know I'm more than my body. I know that there's a part of me that is a spirit, is something else. And I do exist outside my body. And for me, that was the proof I needed, that we don't die, like life will go on. And that's the proof I actually needed, to know that what the spiritual teachers are talking about, it's true. It's true. Now I know.
Yes.
Just in question to that, because I've had a couple of experiences, and you're more experienced in that than I am. In fact, I had an experience where I popped out of my body, and I was asking myself, will I know who I am when I pass on? Is the essence of Robin still going to exist, or am I just gonna, it's just gonna be dark and nothing. And I kept posing that question to myself, and all of a sudden I wasn't in my body. I could see it lying on the bed, and a voice in my head, like a consciousness, said, "Are you still you?" Which I thought, I feel just like I normally do, but I can see myself there. I'm not in there, you know? And so I don't know what you would call that, if that would be astral projection, or I'm not quite sure. And then the other thing that I have happen consistently is if I go to sleep, I can hear myself. So I'll be like a light snore going on, and I'm listening to it the whole time. And I'm like, okay, you're sleeping, but you're listening to yourself sleeping. So I have these little things like that, and I'm not quite sure what the label for that is, but it seems to be some type of popping out as far as I can tell.
It seems like it. And I've heard so many amazing spiritual experiences we can have. It seems like there are just more and more, and people are experiencing different mystical experiences that I'm like, oh, is that really possible? Is that really possible? And it seems like the veil is just getting thinner and thinner now, that more and more people are channeling, are waking up, or having mystical and spiritual experiences. But yeah, I mean, like I've had another mystical experience where I was not really out of my body, but I felt like I just got bigger and bigger. Like I was meditating on my heart, and it was like I was shooting out to my body and just became enormous. And I was like this spirit in, you know, Aladdin's lamp that became as big as the universe. And I sort of got the answer that this is how big you all are. But it wasn't a sense that I was sort of me out of my body in another body. Like what I felt in the astral projection and the lucid dreaming is that I'm actually in another body, like in sort of what they call an astral body. And I've even looked at my hands and pulled my hand fingers, and they get long, like it's another type of body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
So
wondering then if one had the awareness, like say you have it happen a couple of times and you start to get onto this can happen. My understanding is you can actually direct it. Like you could actually say, oh, drop in my aunt in Chicago, and you might be in Washington, you know, that you would actually be able to get that consciousness. If you believed in it and you were aware of it happening, you'd actually have control over it. I don't know whether you've ever tried that. I haven't tried it.
yeah.
It only happened to me one time where actually the whole thing, the body was there, it laid on the bed, and I was a little unnerved because I thought I tried to yell out to get my husband's attention or somebody to see what was going on, and I couldn't operate the body at all. My consciousness was totally out of it, so the body was like lifeless. It's just laying there on the bed, not doing anything I was directing it to do. And then there was just a knowing, like a talking in my head that, you know, what do you think of this? You still, you know who you are, don't you? You're out of there, but you still feel like yourself. And I was very surprised how familiar I felt to myself not being in that body. I mean, I expected that it would be different, but it wasn't. It was very similar to how I would feel as Robin.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking, that not everybody needs to do these techniques, because to you it seems like it just happened, and with you channeling, you know, that is also a gift. So I think you teachers and guys who are channeling, you are often more open to other of these mystical experiences. Like for me, I had to work really hard, really hard to make this happen. Like it doesn't happen natural to me. I have to do a lot of techniques, rehearse, and then it can happen. And now I'm not doing it anymore because I can't get enough sleep when I'm doing it. Like I don't have the time to focus that much. But yeah, you can basically navigate wherever you want. Now, I do believe that there are some limits, that some places we're not allowed to go and stuff like that. Like Dolores Cannon speaks about that there are, you know, some spirits that are guiding certain Akashic records or places you can go. But the general rule is that you can travel around anywhere. However, you know, it is a question of, is it right, you know, to fly to my ex-boyfriend and see what he's doing?
Yeah. So what types of messages or knowings did you receive from having these experiences?
Yeah, I did actually feel that I got a symbol, an answer in a symbol, like similar to you, Robin, where you were having a question in your mind and then it comes. To me, I have been wondering about when there have been disasters and horrible things happening on the planet. I've felt often very lost and felt like, okay, can God care about me when all these people are suffering? I mean, I'm here in Norway. I'm so fortunate, you know, why would he care or she care about me? And is my prayers heard? You know, do they really matter? And what I experienced, and it was actually the first time I astral projected, I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? I'm outside my body. And I was like, yeah, let's go up to heaven. And somehow I thought that was up. So I was flying up because I was like, I want to go to heaven. So I flew up in the sky and just flew. And I didn't find heaven. I just found a lot of sky clouds. But in one cloud that opened up was all these telephones, like a cluster of telephones that were like linked together, like in a tree. And there were people calling through these telephones. I heard a lot of noises and a lot of voices. And then I sort of tuned in more and I heard that they were prayers. There were prayers from people all over the world. And I didn't see God or anything, but it was sort of a knowing or an understanding that all these telephones were picked up, like they were picked up. And I didn't see a hand picking them up. I just saw or knew that they were picked up, all these prayers.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I realized
it's kind of like that definition of omnipresence. I used to ponder that myself and think, how the heck can he hear everybody at one time, or he, whatever it is. But I think just the space around us, there's a presence that's linked to everyone because you're part of that one thing. And so all at once, everything is being taken in or observed. So that's what the definition of the universe or your God or source, whatever you want to call it, is this omnipresence that surrounds every single thing in the universe, and therefore you have access to it. So it's almost like it's individualistic for every person, but it's all contained in one mass, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and that's what I find so beautiful. That's one of my discoveries, is that everything is really individualized in a way that, you know, God or source sees the uniqueness in us. Even in near-death experiences, I've interviewed so many who've had near-death experiences, and they are so different, even though there are some commonalities. Like some experience this tunnel and a life review. It seemed like to be really tailored to that person's belief system or whoever, whatever they have inside is really mirrored in the near-death experience. Yeah, and just that question that I had, you know, that I had forgotten about, that was answered in that symbol. And it gave me so much relief that I knew that, oh, even my prayer is heard, even though I'm so fortunate, you know, and there's no prayer is more important than another prayer, like we're equal. So I thought that was just so beautiful. I felt so seen, even though I didn't meet God and he said, I love you. I understood it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question for Athena. Right now, there's some pretty difficult things happening in Israel. And I know a lot of the talk around, people are pretty upset about what's going on. And I understand that sometimes suffering actually brings about some very profound and good changes. And I just wanted to get some input for everyone on what your thoughts are on that.
Well, we have always said and taught that and humans are experiencing, and through their experiencing, they are expanding themselves in the universe. Did we say anything about right and wrong or good and bad? No, we didn't. Yeah. And we know that in the human form, that the senses make you feel as though something is good or bad. But actually, there's just waves of energy or emissions of energy that come out of you from emotions. Those waves of energy are received by the divine part of you, and the universe as a whole expands because of what you have experienced. And so even though we would never argue or say that it isn't a horrific experience for those that are experiencing it, and also difficult for those of you that are watching it, to be going on is difficult. But to understand that in the divine or the universal part of consciousness, that energy is expanding the universe and those that are involved in it. And so what comes from that in alignment, when one can finally let go of the horrificness of it and the pain of it, they can begin to align to themselves or to the universe in love. And then the good experience that they could have that has been derived by what people have gone through could actually start to flow into the plane or come to them. It's actually what's happening in the rise of consciousness that's continuing right now. And so what are those people really doing in their suffering? Well, they are expanding the universe and increasing its vibration, and then waiting for others to catch up to it so that they can send it to the earth plane and then rise the vibration of the earth in that process. And so what happens then is those that are even not doing the work, say someone is not even interested in spirituality, they're just living their lives. Yeah. Some of you will look at them as not worthy of moving up, not contributing, not supposed to be involved in the rise to fifth dimensional reality. And we would tell you that's just not true. You know what a vibration does. If you're next to something that's vibrating, you're going to vibrate with it, move right up with it. All of you humans are worthy. None of you are doing anything wrong. Nothing is condemnable. Nothing in our minds should be judged as being bad or needing a do-over. Everything that any human has experienced has contributed. They all are. And therefore, they're all worthy, and they're all getting risen to the 5D level, whether they do anything about it or not, you see.
So, Jannecke, what would you feel would be important for people that are struggling right now? I know you went through a period of struggle when, you lost your voice and you stopped acting. What would be important for people to know that are struggling just like that, about moving forward or dealing with their struggles?
Yeah, it's basically why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I really wanted to reach out to someone who had felt so lost as myself, because I felt that that was what I needed at the time. And YouTube is such a powerful platform for other thoughts to come forward than we meet in society, because especially in Norway, it's a lot about just being successful and having status. And that's actually honestly why we have so many suicides, which is really, really sad, because it's this impression that we're going to be so successful. And if you're not, you sort of fall out. So what I wish I knew was that there was a deeper meaning with my suffering, and that in that suffering, there was actually gold, that in order to really know what happiness is and love and self-love, we need sometimes to experience the opposite to really appreciate it. And darkness comes together with light. Like darkness is part of life. As we have light, we have darkness as well. And I think in the midst of it, I think the more you accept the hardship of it, try not to resist it or fix it, that it should feel differently, that you can actually honor that I'm feeling horrible right now. This is awful. It's horrible. But this too shall pass. Like nothing will stay the same. Like emotions are always changing. Like we change every moment. And that was a fear I had, that what if I'm going to feel this for the rest of my life? But that was a belief that is not true, because we change our emotions in a state of being all the time. Like everything changes all the time. Like the only constant in the universe is change. Like things are evolving. So that would have helped me, that to know that this will also change. Like I won't always feel like this, even though my ego and my mind and my fear was like, you're always going to feel like this. You're never going to succeed. You're never going to be happy. Like that wasn't true. So if somebody had told me that, this is a phase you're in, but it will change, that could have helped me. And also I had such resistance towards the depression. Like I shouldn't feel like this. There's something wrong with me. I need to be fixed. Like all these negative feelings about how unsuccessful I was because I was even feeling like this. So the more we could sort of accept that okay, this is horrible right now. I'm in a grief or whatever it is, or I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. If we could actually accept those feelings and let them flow and go through the body. I mean, when we lose someone and we're in sorrow, we can't just push the sorrow away. Like if I had lost one of my parents or somebody I cared about, of course I need to grieve, and that's a process. But the more we're pushing it down and, oh no, I'm supposed to be over my grief right now because society just expects me to be over it, that we don't let our bodies fully process it. So I think the more we meet it with acceptance and allowance, the actually faster it will flow through us and also come out with its message, and you'll be aware of the message. So, but I just have to want to honor also how difficult it is in the moment, that it's not fun to go through. But nothing is in vain, and there is a deeper meaning with it, and you will come out on the other side and being different, feeling different.
I mean, I think that's a really perfect description of self-love from what I've been taught in the group that I channel. It's basically surrender is what you're talking about to everything and anything that happens to you in life, in the love of the human for experiencing it for you, and in the understanding that you've done your job. As you've felt an experience, you've caused expansion, you've received it in the divine part of you. The only thing I would comment on that sometimes I think people don't really understand what negative thinking is. That's another thing that people try to snuff out. They try to change it. They try to correct it because they think it's going to create something that they're not wanting. And what's really going on is the divine part of you and the human aspect of you are working in union together. And so as you expand in the divine part of you by what you have experienced, whether it's positive or negative, you're expanding because of it. As you expand in that divine part of you and become more and more of a positive, because that's what happens in the high vibration of the universe, the human aspect of you will kick out in negativity what it is that you hold in beliefs and perceptions that are counterproductive to you receiving that expansion. And by receiving that, I mean you've become it the minute that you've wanted it. It's there for you. But if you're holding some thoughts or perceptions or beliefs that are opposite or not congruent with what you've become, that's when negativity starts coming. So that's when you really want to sit up and say, oh, my human is communicating to the divine part of me. It's letting me know that I've got all this good stuff here that could flow into me very automatically, but I've got caught in my energetic field, in my chakras, in my energy centers, certain perceptions and beliefs regard to the way that I lived my life. They're not wrong, by the way, as you said. It's not something you want to deny in yourself or change or make go away, but you do want to recognize it and soothe that aspect of you in love and understanding that that's what your life experience caused you to feel and to hang on to, and therefore pinch close the center, and then the natural flow of experiences that would just come in very naturally to you can't really enter. So in essence, we deny our own divinity. It's always there. It's always wanting to flow in through the energy centers, hits the spine, everything goes right up to the brain. That's how I'm communicating right now. It's how you are, whether you know it or not. Everybody's a channeler. Everybody's receiving themselves through that same fluid way of communication. It's coming in through the energy centers. It's hitting the spine. It's going up through the back of the brain. And this is how they access my words and what it is that comes in the form of knowledge or wisdom or whatever you'd want to call it. So every human has access to it. It's in there. They have the energy centers which transmit from the divine part of you and the universe as a whole. It's just a matter of really understanding, believing how this system works and starting to feel blockages when you have them. Look at your life, know where I'm satisfied here, I'm not satisfied there. If I'm not satisfied in relationships, I got something caught in my heart. If I feel as though people are trying to control me or I'm trying to control others, I got something caught in my gut. So what would happen is that very natural flow of positive experiences that would be coming to you in regard to those areas of your life would either be denied by you or allowed, depending on what you felt and released. A human is a feeler and a releaser. It's just a tool. It's not something that can create the experience. It's not something that should deny an experience. It simply feels the experience and then releases from it an energetic emission of emotion. And then the universe is the one that receives that emotion. It culminates the people, the circumstances, the situations, the wonderful things that you would like to have that you couldn't even yourself imagine for yourself that could come through that feel and release process. So in retrospect to what you said, the love of self, in essence, and what you were saying is, don't deny it, don't judge it, don't condemn it. Yes, you have to sit in it sometimes, it doesn't feel good, but you have to love yourself for going through that experience. And in the love of self, you become a match to your divine source unknowingly. As you express love to yourself and appreciation for what you had to suffer through in your life, your own tone comes up. The human lets go. It can't hold on to negativity as its vibration raises. And then it becomes a match to its source. And then all the good stuff just starts coming in. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Jannecke, I think it was a good point when you were talking about your suffering, that you had mentioned, that there's always something bigger, greater, or whatever that comes from that experience. Because I think when I was younger and I would suffer, I wouldn't necessarily get the message as to why I'm suffering. But now, sometimes I have the suffering, and every time I look back at any experience that I have suffering with, I always have a huge awareness or awakening or knowing that comes out of those experiences. So I would just add that to people that are out there struggling or suffering, is try to open your belief system a little bit to know that whatever you are suffering from, there's going to be a great knowing or awareness that comes out of that if you allow yourself to feel that and just go through it and know that something good is coming from it. Yeah. So Robin, or I should say Athena, we were talking when we were doing our Choose Your Universe course the other day. We were talking about aspects of the small child and woundings, and almost like peeling layers off the onions, or people call that, as you get ready, you peel another layer. But you had made mention of the streams of consciousness and how everything, I'm assuming even our energy entrapments, all have these streams of consciousness. And I was very fascinated, and I had a very understanding, I guess I would say, from that. But now, me trying to put that into words to people, I'm struggling a little bit with. So I'm wondering if you could just talk about that a little bit.
Well, let's see if we can put it into terms that perhaps a human can comprehend. It's a little difficult to understand. What we actually said was, there is a stream of consciousness for everything. There's a stream of consciousness for good health, for bad health, for love, for hate. Excuse us, we're having a little bit of allergies today. So you have all these streams of consciousness. And so we would say every aspect that is within a human, whether it be a positive or negative, you have your jealousy, your betrayal, your all of your negativities, and then you have all of the positive traits that they have. All of those belong to a stream of consciousness. And so as a human chooses to feel, it pulls out an aspect from that stream of consciousness that then they are using in the experience that they are having. And so then if the human to be considered whole would have all of the aspects, let's just say that, in balance within their body. So that would mean that they had all of the good feelings, and all of what they would call the bad feelings would be contained within them, that they could have access to based upon what they were experiencing, that what they would pull from, what stream of consciousness that they would pull from, and that would be how they would live their experience. So it's just to understand that when an infraction occurs, a trauma or something happens to you at maybe a young age, that you actually lock up or throw out, let's just use that term, that aspect. It is actually locked, or sometimes we can use the term of put back into the pool. Let's use that term even. And so you yourself are not in balance anymore. You don't have access to the full use of and the balance of all of the emotive states that you could normally have access to. So in shamanic practices, the shaman himself will go and do what he calls a soul retrieval, where he will actually retrieve that aspect and try to replace it or bring it back to you. And actually what we do in sessions is we try to empower the individual to learn to do that for themselves, because they can, by recognizing what it is that they have held on to, and then soothing them out of it by making them understand that really anyone that experienced their experience the way that they did would probably have done the same thing. They probably would have clamped down, closed off, and denied energy to that energy center based on the negative feeling that they had because of the situation they were in. So a human is never wrong. It's never bad. It's never done anything condemnable or judgeable or to regret. It's it's simply trying to survive in its environment based on what it's lived in the life it's in, its past lives, and its lineage. That's all part of it. And it's coming through the DNA. Some of it is coming into them through their families or what they don't even have access to or know that is causing them to make decision or feel certain ways, perceptions about life. But as you said, Heidi, as time goes on and you become maturing, you start to spiritually open or evolve a little bit in your energy centers. You start to recognize that I can be the observer of myself rather than the reactor to myself. Yeah, the unconscious reactor to pain. And as I observe myself in my pain, I can also know that there is a preference born because of the experience I had. When I finally start to recognize that, I'm moving out of the fourth dimensional reality into 5D, where I can create a wonderful experience because I'm becoming a preference follower, a master, one that decides I'm going to follow the good feeling thought and get for myself in my experience what I'm wanting to through joy and happiness, rather through suffering and pain like I've been doing it. So to be clear, to understand, the universe expands either way. And we don't like to say we don't care if you're suffering. It's not that, yeah. But what we are saying is we're getting the expansion either way, whether it be in suffering or whether it be in joy and happiness. We would like to teach you to get it in joy and happiness. And you do this by becoming a preference follower, by observing yourself in your pain and knowing, what do I really want because of this pain? And then identifying that, and then moving yourself as closely to that way of thinking and feeling that you can, so that you can actually get those experiences flowing into you. So in essence, aspects come from streams of consciousness, pools really of consciousness. You would agree that everyone that is experiencing jealousy would say it's a little the same. Everyone that is experiencing explosive anger, it's a little the same. Yeah, it's because it's a stream of consciousness that all humans have access to, you see.
Mm-hmm. Jannecke, have you had that experience where you feel like you either have had suffering or something that has expanded you, and then you feel really good for a while, and then all of a sudden, when you're in a good state, another layer comes, and another layer, and another layer? Have you had that experience?
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like it is that like that all the time, actually. What I've found has been interesting is that because I feel like I've been struggling a lot with my emotions, with myself, with self-love. It seems like it's a topic of my life. But I've come to a totally different place in myself that I have been, but I still work a lot with my self-love. But there was another layer where my private life started just to fall into place, and I started really to receive everything I've been longing for and dreamt about. And then I noticed that part of me was self-sabotaging still, because I just didn't believe that I could really have all that. And I think also in my career, I've been a struggling actress a lot. So I've sort of transferred that in the beginning into Wisdom from North, that it had to be so hard to make money and to, everything, all the practical things, that it had to be hard, that I've sort of felt in my life that things need to be a struggle, like all the time. And when things all of a sudden start to happen and come with flow, my system was like, what's going on right now? This is scary. So yeah, like I felt very good. And then things started coming, and then I started sabotaging what was coming. And that was very interesting. That was like a new layer that I could only see at that time when I received all the abundance all of a sudden. So then I needed to look at that. Why do I need to
that's
sabotage?
another thing that we talk about a lot in sessions is you got to love yourself in your doubt. You have to love yourself in your not believing. You know, a lot of times we'll feel that not belief and we'll think, I got to get that out of there. I'm not going to get what I want, you know. And again, that's just another thing that's born of your experience. The other thing that I didn't mention that I wanted to mention about those streams of consciousness in regard to emotion. And so if you looked at it like a bag that you're picking out of as a human, in your experience, you feel somebody betrays you, and so you grab the betrayal out of the stream of consciousness. That's what your human is using in that moment to deal with what it's feeling. And so when you lock down on it and you hold on to it, that you keep that aspect within you. But now you go up the road and you have another experience, something else that caused you to feel betrayal because you're hanging on to it. It's in your bag. That's why you're getting it. But you don't actually use the same thing. You go get another piece of betrayal, and you add it to the one that you have. And so the aspect starts to grow. It just gets bigger. As you hang on to it, you keep adding to it. You're never releasing it. You're never feeling and releasing it. So I really wanted to give this analogy of how emotions are actually built. They're actually, when you hang on to an emotion, you keep dipping back into that stream of consciousness to survive your experience. Basically, what can I use? How can I feel about this? And so in that dipping back in, when you're still hanging on to something, if that gives you a better understanding of how emotions grow, because they were meant to be flowing right through you. They were meant to be used in that experience and let go of and then moved on from. But when we suffer or are feeling traumatic about something, the human aspect of you thinks, I don't want any more of those experiences. So I'm not letting go of this. I'm just going to hang on to it and stop experiences from coming. But unknowingly, the very thing that they think they're doing is really opposite, because as you hang on to the emotion, you do have something to defend about. People that are very controlling, they think that it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It just means you better be controlling, because you're hanging on to some things that are going to bring an experience to you that you're not going to like the feel of. So therefore, their feeling to control their environment is the correct one, because they have an energy entrapment. Once the energy entrapment is removed, you no longer need to protect yourself by controlling your experience, because the universe does that for you. But again, when you have an entrapment, this is where the trouble comes in. The main principle to get the life you want is not living the perfect life, not making the perfect choice, and not feeling the perfect way. It's just being a feeler and releaser of energy. That's how you obtain, because you're expanding all the time, and you are a creator that creates the moment you have an emotion. And so what you want is born the second that you feel. We didn't say positive or negative. We just said when you feel. And so if you can really get that concept that you can't do it wrong and you aren't doing it wrong, just become a feeler and releaser of your experience and love the self for doing it. And things will really turn around. And this is how you can start creating in joy, because then you prove to yourself, here comes the good stuff. It's just coming and coming and coming. And you're feeling so creative and so good about it and so in control of it, that the cycle starts to shift from one of creating and suffering to one of creating in joy and happiness.
You have really profound answers there. To me, like what I felt when I had this resistance towards happiness, actually, was that it helped me just to be aware of it. Like I became aware of it and I was like, oh my goodness, that's what I'm doing here. This is what I'm doing here. I'm self-sabotaging myself. And when I saw that, I made a decision. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to allow happiness to come to me. And I think if I've said that 15 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible, because I was way too much in those emotions. But I see now the benefit of having worked so much with myself, because just the awareness removed it. And I was like, I'm going to, that's my next phase. I'm going to allow happiness and flow and abundance come to me now. And when I did that, things just changed.
They take it a step further, even in that allowing. Sometimes it's not quite enough to disengage the emotion completely. So it's to kind of understand why you chose that emotion. So you give yourself a brief moment of what you sat in your life that would have maybe caused that feeling, and then offer the love to the self for giving you that explanation. And that's when it really, because oftentimes these emotions will be contained in not just one of the centers. When they don't get noticed in let's say your love life, maybe you don't pick up on a block that you have in your heart center, it'll travel somewhere else. It'll think, okay, let's go into her health, let's go into her gut and give her a stomach ache, or make her feel like her experience is out of control. So that emotion will look for ways to express itself through other chakras and other areas of your life, until it grows to such a magnitude that you just can't stomach it anymore. You can't live with that. And so you decide, I got to figure this out, because it's coming at me in all areas of my life, not just in my relationships, but now I'm getting it in money, I'm getting it in my work. And so it actually grows, the entrapment grows, and as it should, because it wants to be recognized and healed. And once it reaches a certain level within a human, they'll do that.
Yeah. So Jannecke, if our listeners would like to know more about your services and where to find you and what you do, can you just let everyone know how to find you and what you offer?
Yes, sure. I'd love to. So, on my YouTube channel, Wisdom from North, I interview amazing spiritual teachers and also ordinary people who've had mystical experiences. And it's really an uplifting show about really understanding the big questions of life and why we're here and where we're going, and to receive more perspectives on ourselves and deeper meaning of life. And I also ask very curious questions that it comes from my own curiosity. So that's sort of one part of Wisdom from North. But then we also offer an online membership. And some people call it the spiritual Netflix, or some of my teachers, no members, because it consists of several, or more than 60 actually, master classes with different spiritual teachers that I've interviewed and handpicked. And so the teachers deliver a class every month, so members can look forward to one new masterclass every month where they receive spiritual guidance and spiritual wisdom and knowledge. So that is the membership for those who want to, dive deeper than just my interviews, with the community also that we have. And then we do online courses with different teachers. So on my website, I have several online programs with different teachers. So I look at myself as sort of this facilitator who sort of offers different ways of expand your consciousness through different teachers that I've connected with, that I think is amazing. And we have, podcasts too, and a lot of free stuff as well. So just go into wisdomfromnorth.com and you'll find a lot of inspiring content.
Well, thank you very
Awesome.
much, Jannecke. I think we've had a wonderful exchange, and I'm really looking forward to coming on your show. I think it's going to be I'm going to be coming on there. And we really learned a great deal about you and your journey, and very wise woman. I really enjoyed the interaction today.
Yes, me as well. So nice meeting you, and I encourage everyone to check out your website.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.